afternoon. We are the Current Clarity, and today we'll be having our second panel with an experienced deep sea diver. And now I'll be passing the floor on to Ariana.
Mr. Maclean, could you
Good
please
morning.
introduce yourself, your name, where you're from, and something about you?
I'm Jay Maclean, and I'm an Australian marine biologist. And I've been in the Philippines for about 40 years, and that's where most of my diving experiences come from. Snorkeling and diving are my hobbies. And also, I do marine painting as well. I really also wanted to show you the marine environment, but it's raining. There's the view. You can't really tell that it's raining.
So, our first question, if you don't mind, is how long have you been diving? And maybe could you share some experiences during your dives?
I've been diving for about 35 years, so I've had quite a few experiences of surrounded by sharks, and actually I've been nearly killed twice. Once when I dived too deep with two buddies in New Guinea, and another time when I was stung here in the Philippines by a deadly jellyfish, and that was a close call. I was in hospital in the intensive care for a while. I still enjoy all the marine life, so I don't regret 1 minute of it. And so that means I've seen all kinds of animals in the sea, from the biggest one, the whale sharks, here in the Philippines, just tiny fish that gather in them by the multitudes, and everything in between. On our reefs here in the Philippines, you have thousands of different kinds of fish and hundreds of different kinds of coral. And when you go away from the tropics and this particular area, Indonesia, Philippines, New Guinea, Fiji, Solomon Islands, you get less and less kinds of marine life until you get in the temperate waters, and then you don't see very many fish at all, many kinds of fish. There just isn't the beautiful variety of coral reefs and things in the tropics. In the tropics, while we have thousands of different species underwater, you only have small quantities of each. Like, for instance, the opposite in the temperate waters, in the colder waters, you will get huge schools of, say, sardines or herrings, and they almost sink the boats when they put the net around them all.
Actually, really curious. What part of the Philippines are you in currently?
Well, I've been around most of it, from the bottom to the top. If I was asked to say which is the best, I'd say right here in Anilao, Batangas, where I am.
Our next question is, during your dives, what have you observed in the ocean waters? Was the water clean, and how has it changed over the years?
Well, when you're diving out in the sea, divers really only go where the sea is clean. In fact, if you did, the visibility would be so low you wouldn't see your hand in front of your face. The water seems to be clean, but there's invisible pollution everywhere. And so you get people cutting down the forests in the hills to make farms or build houses. And all the loose dirt runs down the creeks and rivers into the sea, and it kills the corals. So that pollution you don't really see because it's generally at a low level, but it gradually builds up in the coastal waters, and it's like fertilizer. First effect that you actually observe is when the algae starts to grow along the beach, and then you get big seaweed blooms near the coast, and they smother the coral too. You get red tides, which caused by the fertilizer effect. Red tides are small microscopic animals that multiply really fast in the right conditions when their water is fertilized by pollution and it's hot and sunny. And you get the red tides, which in the Philippines kill people. The red tide is eaten by mussels and clams, and it's harmless to them, but it can kill humans. Now we have a lot of red tide warnings around the country here. It's a seasonal thing, but you'll see them in the news sometimes. So that's the subtle effects of the pollution. And as it gets stronger, it becomes toxic to the marine life itself. And it can take the oxygen out of the water by chemical reactions with the fertilizer kind of stuff. Taking away the oxygen means that the fish can't breathe. And the climate change is also affecting marine life by making it too warm for some species. So some fish in the tropics are now moving away from the tropic. In Australia, a lot of the tropical fish from the Great Barrier Reef are now being found way down south in other parts of the country. Tropical fish are suddenly appearing in temperate waters. Fish leaving the tropics means no more fish. In the cooler waters, they'll still have fish because they'll have all the fish that have come from the tropics. So that's an interesting aspect. That's all in the far distant future. And there is time, I think, for some of the corals and fish and things in the tropics to acclimatize to the warmer waters. So that's what we can hope for, is that our reefs and fish life won't disappear in the future of climate change. Life will change, but still go on.
To see how all of these different issues such as climate change, the red tides, they all intertwine into one huge problem, which not only affects the marine life but also the livelihoods of people on the land, such as the fishermen, who will have a harder time gaining money and stuff.
I'm just going to show you some pictures from a book which was written by myself and another guy. Interestingly, it was launched in the US White House, so it was quite an important book. This is what happens with all those fishermen are fishing. The more red it is, the more amount of fishing there is. Now what that means is, overfishing means that some species are fished almost to extinction. The amount of fish that there is left declines rapidly. So here's another chart, that North Atlantic area, and it shows the graph of lots of different important marine species. These are from 1950 to the year 2000. All I'm showing you is the fish are disappearing from the sea in the North Atlantic. There's too much fish being taken. The size of what's left is getting smaller and the numbers are getting smaller. Fishing at moderate levels means that you can fish forever at that level. So if the fisheries were maintained at that level or less, then the sea would be at its maximum activity, because it would be acting like the sharks and the tunas. Humans are just like those. That's how humans are affecting it. In the sea, you just cannot make more fish, but you can make more fishermen. All around the world, there is too many fish being caught by too many fishermen.
Now, how about, what are the things that we can do in our daily lives to assist or lessen the horrible or negative effects on the sea?
We have cleanups along the beach here because so much plastic comes ashore. It's atrocious. And then plastic bags, rice bags, and some of these do affect the reef, like the plastic bags can smother some coral. It's negligible when you think about it compared to a typhoon. My contribution has always been to promote marine conservation and things we've talked about. For instance, this is the book I wrote 7 years ago now, and it talks about all the different parts of the life in tropical seas. 3 basic things we can do: keep as much as possible of our wastes out of the ocean, stopping development that affects the shore, and in most places, reducing the amount of fishing and setting up marine protected areas. I see my work as promoting conservation. Like those pictures I showed you in the book, they're all my paintings. I'm just going to go into a little art gallery, which we've set up. There's the beach over there. And these are some of the paintings. And that's a picture from Tubataha. So I paint these reef scenes for people to understand what they would be missing if the reefs disappear.
This is the end of our panel interview. Again, our team would like to thank you for this wonderful lecture. There's stuff that we've never thought or knew about, like overfishing, red tide, and a lot of other stuff. Not only have you educated us, but also people from our social media. Spreading awareness is the first step to saving the world. So once again, we thank you, Mr. Maclean, for your time with us here today.